The guy who created or came up with the idea that there was a God particle, this Professor Higgs, he came up with this idea there's a God particle. That is what CERN is doing, is they're like, we found the God particle. That guy coincidentally died on this eclipse, April 8th, when CERN was activated. These are rituals for sure.
Las distracciones y narrativas reinan este mundo tecnológico. Todos tienen una opinión de lo que es la verdad y lo que es mentira. ¿Quién controla el mundo? Los aliens son real. Vivimos en un Matrix. Estas preguntas serán debatidas con José y Daniel G, explorando y descubriendo las verdades de nuestro mundo, nuestras creencias y nuestro reality. Welcome to Cultura Truth Project. Dímelo, mi gente. Welcome back. Es otro episodio. It's another one. It's Cultura Truth Project. Jose G, Daniel G.
What's going on?
Gente. What's going on, bro?
Que es la que hay, mi gente. Everybody from around the world. The numbers are coming in hot from South America. Woo. Colombia, welcome. Yeah. Venezuela, I don't know how y'all are getting internet, but whoever's doing it over there, you know what? Muchas gracias, mi gente. I'm sorry that Maduro's, oppressing you. But, pero muchas gracias a todo el mundo. Los últimos 4 episodios están a fuego.
Yes,
y me está encantando ver todo esto, honestamente.
I love it.
Pero, man, it's been a crazy week, dude.
Yeah, man. We had a solar eclipse on Monday.
Oh, I felt the full
internet
brunt.
The internet is still undefeated, with all the memes from the solar eclipse. But we're going to talk more solar eclipse this week, bro. We're going to talk about CERN. We're going to pick up a little bit more than what we did last week. So we're going to kind of keep what we're doing last week. But we brought the expert, a good friend of the show, my friend, your friend, everybody's friend, Alex from the Doe-Nut Factory. What up, Doe-Nut?
Hola, it's Doe-Nut.
Oh, yeah, Doe-Nut. Where's my donuts, dog? Man.
We were talking about hip-hop before. Have you listened to Control Machete? They're dope.
No. You know what? I'll be honest with you. I'm like a weird purist when it comes to hip-hop. When it's like some of these weird like Mexicans and like other Latinos that aren't like from New York or like the East Coast, I'm just like, can you even call yourself hip-hop? But, respect to all of them. There's that new guy out of Texas, Mexican OT or whatever his name is.
Yeah.
He's the hottest thing right now because he went on Rogan, but like really don't know anything about
haven't heard him.
Well, he's another Mexican with a mullet, Jose. It's okay.
Got it.
He wears Gucci glasses.
As always, make sure you follow us on all of our socials and on YouTube and on Rumble, Cultura Truth Project. Follow us on Instagram and on Facebook, Gonzalez Media TV. Subscribe to the podcast on all major platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, and leave us a 5-star review. And show your support by joining the Supporters Club on Spreaker, $3 a month. You guys can listen to some exclusive audio content that you can't get on YouTube. You can't get on Rumble, only in the Supporters Club, $3 a month. Link is in the description.
Here's a cool thing. Before we move on, here's a cool thing about the Supporters Club. If you enjoy the podcast and you like what you're listening to, we get like dirty and we reveal secrets about each other on on the Supporters Club because this is a professional. What you guys get on YouTube is professional. We crack jokes, but like we really let loose on the pre-show. So go ahead, subscribe to the pre-show, guys.
Love it. So Alex, as always, bro, where can the people find you? Where can the people follow you so they can keep up on all the Illuminati news, bro?
You can find me just Google or YouTube, just Doe-Nut, and that's spelled Doenut. Donut.
Sweet. There we go, guys. Make sure you follow Doe-Nut at doenut.com. Follow him on socials. I'll have all the links in the description. And I just want to say a big thank you to you, Alex, because we got to meet in person a few weeks ago. You were here in Florida for the Sam Tripoli show. So shout out to Sam Tripoli. But let me tell you, bro, thank you for this. This is the most amazing gift. Look at that, bro. Daniel.
I want one.
Doe-Nut
How can I get
riding
one?
a dolphin, bro. The Illuminati dolphin.
Dude, first of all, can I get that tattooed on me, Doe-Nut? And would you approve?
Absolutely.
I am getting that tattooed on me.
Yeah, it comes with a bunch of goodies. It was great, man. So thank you for this, Alex. It's a great gift. I will never forget it. Can't wait to see you again, bro.
Oh, for sure. That was fun. That was fun. Hanging out with you. Yeah.
Yeah, that was great, man. So, guys, today we're going to jump in. We're going to continue from last week's episode because last week we dove in into the solar eclipse. We dove into all the coincidental events that were leading up into the solar eclipse, like the rocket launches in NASA, named Apep, which is named after an Egyptian god. We covered that. We also talked about CERN being turned on April 8th, the same day. Yep. And then also when we go back into history, what Alistair Crowley did during that same time period between April 8th and April 10th, doing what the big ritual workings where he contacted Iwas and wrote the Book of the Law. So there's a lot of stuff that coincided with the solar eclipse last week. People thought it was going to be the end of the world. We're all still here. But Daniel, bro, Danny, ¿qué tú crees, bro? Like, what did you think of this event this past weekend? Did it live up to the hype? And what were your thoughts, bro, out of this whole thing?
I mean, well, like y'all know, I'm in DFW in Texas, and I was in the path of total darkness, right? It was a cool event for the most part, you know, just visually. It was weird, at least here. It was like COVID times all over again. Nobody was driving. Everybody was just paying attention. It's like even today, like there was really no traffic anywhere in the city, which is weird. But oh yeah, that's a picture I took. Yeah, that was for right from the rooftop of my job, which is pretty insane. So, but man, honestly, man, I think the way we closed the show last week was the best way to close the show, especially with such a major kind of signs and wonders. You know, I think it's like, hey, we can break down and be informed and talk about all these things, but at the end of the day, nobody knows the day or the time. So live your life, treat everybody else well. And I think, you know, hey, at 33, I've survived 10 apocalypses, so I think I'm pretty good. So,
well, you know what the interesting thing about this is, both Danny and Doe-Nut, is that I saw this video earlier today, and it was talking about the end of the world being in 2012, you know, when the December 21st Mayan calendar ended and all that stuff. But it didn't end in the physical reality. It was more of a spiritual or consciousness type of situation. And it all goes back to Alistair Crowley. And I wanted to get your thoughts on this, Doe-Nut, because during that time, between April 8th and April 10th, it's well documented that Crowley was, you know, I guess he was possessed by an entity where he was given all the words, and he wrote the Book of the Law, which is the Bible of Thelema. But the reason that he wrote that is because Aleister Crowley was apparently some type of a prophet for Osiris or for these Egyptian gods. And that the reason that he was doing this ritual on April 8th was to bring in the age of Osiris. There's 4 ages that he describes. One is the age of Isis, which is the beginning, which is the Egyptians would, I guess, praise Mother Nature as the goddess because it was the age of the goddess of a female energy. Then we move into the age of Osiris, which is where the Abrahamic religions are mainly in control, monotheistic faith. Then now we're in the age of Horus, which is the baby of Osiris and Isis. And all these ages are done on purpose. And that's what Alistair Crowley was instructed to do. And the reason why he wrote the book of the law was to bring in the age of Horus, which is where we're at now. And many people who practice the occult, especially Thelema, observed the solar eclipse as the birth of a new world or a new age or the birth of the age of Horus. So with that information being dissected, Doe-Nut, what are your thoughts on this? Because I thought that this is wild, bro.
Yeah, it is wild that Alistair Crowley, Secret Agent 666, this total Satanist who grew up in a very religious home. Not a lot of people know that his family brew alcohol, and it's called Crowley alcohol or Crowley beers. They're still in existence today. You could even Google it. And his father was this preacher, and then Aleister Crowley pretty much became a preacher as well, but it was more satanic. He took the concept "do what thou wilt" from the Hell's Fire Club, which was a secret society Ben Franklin of America was a part of, but I believe that he was spying on them. But it was a satanic secret society. You might even see in the show Stranger Things, which is about CERN. And CERN was activated on the day of the eclipse, April 8th. Coincidentally, it is the same day that Aleister Crowley summoned this entity called Iowas on this exact date from April 8th to April 10th, which is today. So he was communicating with him today. So it wasn't the end of the world. I told everyone there's going to be no red heifer sacrifice. That ritual ain't going to happen. And it didn't happen. You know, I got a lot of backlash for that, but a lot of strange stuff be happening. Right there's Lom. That's where we get this whole concept of the gray-headed alien. It's Aleister Crowley wrote this book of law talking to this entity, Iowas, and that moved forward to the rocket program with people like L. Ron Hubbard and Jack Parsons, who was using the book of the law to do this Babylon workings for the Scarlet Woman doing sex magic. And that's where we get the whole NASA rocket, modern rocketry, Jeff Bezos blasting phallics up into space, or Virgin Galactic blasting uterus looking shaped rockets up into space 9 days apart. It's all ritualistic. And this eclipse throughout history in Mesopotamia and whatnot, all throughout history, there was a ritual where you would sacrifice a king. It was a ritual, you sacrifice a king. And this is the weird thing, is the guy who created or came up with the idea that there was a God particle, this Professor Higgs, he came up with this idea there's a God particle. That is what CERN is doing, is they're like, we found the God particle. That guy coincidentally died on this eclipse, April 8th, when CERN was activated. These are rituals for sure. Yeah. And CERN be doing rituals. Like they got the Shiva ritual at their headquarters, you know?
Yeah, we actually covered that last week about these crazy rituals that they be doing in front of CERN, in front of Shiva, like that mock, I don't know if it was a real video or not, but they were doing like a mock human sacrifice in front of Shiva. You know, the logo itself has the 666 on there. And it's also located where a lot of that activity goes down. You know, in Switzerland, there's a lot of satanic stuff that goes down in that region of the world. So, but Danny, what after listening to that breakdown, bro, come on, it's wild.
I mean,
right?
I look, here's, I think my biggest thing is people have been doing this forever. And I think it's the advancement in technology and the fact that we were able to discover the Higgs boson for whatever that is. I don't know. I know they call it the God particle or black matter or whatever, right? But it's an interesting thing. And I think the most thing is like, if it is a ritualistic killing or death or not just an opportunistic thing, it's interesting why. And I don't know if there were reports that he was sick or whatnot. I don't know. I did some research and I couldn't find anything on the guy being, sick prior to the eclipse. But I'm over here like thinking, I was like, okay, so he discovered it. Does this guy know something we didn't know? Why are they trying to silence him? Are they trying to use his energy to summon something else? And it's just weird, like, to me. And in last week's episode, I prefaced this where, like, the Hadron Collider, it could be some sort of Stargate that we built. And there were reports back when they first ran it and they discovered the Higgs boson, where people that worked there were seeing entities and they saw some sort of portal open, and maybe they figured out, hey, if we do this on during an eclipse, it's the perfect time to open up this portal and really take a good look on the other side. But it's a lot of weird things, and it doesn't all add up, but it's weird, especially with the whole APEP thing and the rocket launches. And I'm a fan of like space travel and all that. Like I am a sucker for it, but like at this point I'm just like, okay, what are we messing with? Why are we messing with these things?
And that's something else, right? Because like last week in last week's episode, and just like what Doe-Nut just said, Jack Parsons is a very instrumental part in the rocket program, and one of the reasons why we have rockets going up all the time, right, is because of Jack Parsons and what he was doing, not only from the engineering standpoint, but what he was doing on a spiritual standpoint, being the number one student of Alistair Crowley and practicing Thelema and doing that whole thing. So I'm with you, bro. There's nothing new under the sun, but you know what? It is what it is. But something that I found interesting too, Doe-Nut, is this weekend, that I'm into wrestling. My brother and I are into wrestling.
Great card.
Yeah, and this weekend was WWE's yearly ritual of WrestleMania. Let's call it what it is. It's a ritual. It's their ritual. But this ritual fell over the weekend right before the solar eclipse. And I like to take what's going on in wrestling and kind of make it parallel to the world events. And the main event in WrestleMania was Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns has the longest reigning title in the modern history, nearly 4 years as the champion. Has main evented WrestleMania for 9. So he was like the guy, the person that, you got to take off the mountaintop. Cody Rhodes, American Nightmare, American, this American character, has a 2-year storyline with Roman, finally beats Roman, becomes champion. Here's my parallel, and I want to get both of y'all thoughts on this. Cody Rhodes, and if nobody's ever seen Cody Rhodes, I'm going to put a picture up. But Cody Rhodes, in my opinion, could be a representation of Donald Trump. Okay. And the reason I say that is that he could be a representation of Donald Trump, because if you look at the storyline of what Cody Rhodes has been over the last 2 years, all the obstacles, everything being thrown at him so he can, get to that point and finally beat the guy and be the guy of the company. Right. So Donald Trump, parallel. Yes, he's being thrown with lawsuits and fines left and right, trying to do whatever he can. And he's going to face Biden at the end of the year. And I honestly feel like this might be a little bit of predictive programming, right? Cody's been, Donald Trump's been in the news. He's been in the headlines left and right, being attacked, being, the one thing after the other. And let me be clear. I'm not a Donald Trump guy. I'm just making comparisons. So I don't want to hear people in the comments and be like, oh, this Trumper guy, no, it's not, that's not the case. The case is, I'm looking at the parallels. I'm looking at the story that WWE is telling me, and WWE is pretty Masonic itself. The WWE is the 33. You have the Raw logo that kind of looks like the square and compass. So there's some stuff definitely involved in there. But Danny, when you look at the comparison here, all right, and I know I'm stretching. You can call me Stretch Armstrong, Stretch Jose, whatever you want to call me, right? But you can't deny that there are some parallels going on here.
It looks just like them.
I mean, visually, 100%. You know, well, I will say, since like you, massive wrestling fan, I've been following the story for the Cody story, not just his WWE story, but his kayfabe / reality story from the time he left to the time he came back. I personally think Cody Rhodes is the prodigal son. Is Donald Trump the prodigal son of the United States? I don't know. And that's one thing where I can't really pinpoint where WWE is trying to program us to. Now, when you just put the microscope and just zero in on the last 2 years, possibly. I mean, Cody came back with a triumphant return, signalizing, saying, "Hey, Donald Trump did this." He came back out of, into the arena of politics and took everybody by storm, and then he got taken out tragically, or not tragically, or however you look at it. I don't know your politics. I personally don't care. Because of an election, and the powers that be were like, but this is our guy. Kind of like WWE at the time, right before TKO merger, where Vince was like, "This is my guy. It's good shit," But now with Triple H at the helm and head of creative, I don't know where this is going and what they're trying to predict, but I think this is the biggest teller for me, and I think it's what happened on the day of during wrestling, the day of the eclipse on Monday Night Raw, and it was, The Rock, the final boss. The line that I think stuck with me the most was like, "Don't break my heart again," and I think this is how the American people feel about Donald Trump, whether you like him or not, right? Where they're like, "Hey, if we do put you back in office, don't break my heart again. Like, don't do this again, dog. Like, we voted for you once. We did this, but if we were to put you back on that pedestal, don't break my heart again. Follow through with your promises." And I think that's the most telling thing, because The Rock being the final boss and his final boss character, some of the best work he's done, which, by the way, did y'all notice? Side note, did y'all notice the King's Elvis looking getup he had? I don't know if that was just him being, the people's guy, but it was just, I'm like, first of all, keep the bell bottoms, but it was cool. I don't know.
I like
it. It's a weird thing. I think that's what's the most telling. It's like, and The Rock going on the political channels and doing more interviews, and I think it was the whole, like, if it was me just looking from the outside, it was like The Rock telling Donald Trump, "Don't break my heart again."
Doe-Nut, you want to jump in on this? What do you think? I know it's wild. I know you don't watch wrestling like we do, but there are some parallels, bro. It's undeniable at this point.
No, yeah, I didn't watch it, but everything that you're saying, I kind of got a picture of it. It is like The Rock. He's going to be the president in the future, right? So it's not his time just yet. So it seems like there's some predictive programming for The Rock in this. It's all symbolic, and that dude just looked just like Trump, like Rhodes, And I was kind of, what could these names mean? Could the Rhodes be the Rhodes Scholars and Roman Reigns? It's like the Roman Empire. It's a big distraction, but it's also preparation for conflict and warfare, like to get people pumped up. I believe that, think about Hulk Hogan, how like America that was, and that charging testosterone type energy. Then we go into all these big wars 10 years after that. So all the kids watching it, because I grew up watching wrestling. And
Jose, put up that picture of Rhodes in the full get up, his entrance get up, right
This
there
one?
in the blue. Yeah, put that one up. This is what's interesting to me when you say like programming Doe-Nut, and not to cut you off, and I do apologize.
no, you're good.
It's like that's the all-American war posture to me when you look at that, right? Like he's in that colonial style get up. He's preparing for war, very aristocratic. And Donald Trump, for all his faults, he's the only guy to ever bring strength back to America in recent history.
Right. It's one of the like biggest movements of America that like we've lived through, that he created and whatnot, for sure.
I mean, look at the comparisons. You're right, Doe-Nut. Look, I mean,
Oh,
superhero.
that's a good pick right there that you did with his NFTs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. To see, and he's a champion. And look at, I mean, I don't know, man. I don't know. I may be stretching. I definitely want to know what y'all think. So, but let us know in the
Yeah, I don't think
comments.
you're stretching at all. That's just like you could obviously see it, like it's right there.
Absolutely, dude. Absolutely.
I also think that Cody being the champion and his nickname being the American Nightmare is very suiting for this generation.
Also,
So-
right?
So the American Nightmare would be Trump, and then the final boss is The Rock. So like I don't know, maybe like Trump gets in, but they want the whole world to go up into flames, you know. And then maybe The Rock comes in while everybody's eating each other, and The Rock's like, "Okay, you smell what The Rock cooking," and laid the smack down, you know.
Let me tell you something, jabroni. You and Russia, your candy asses are gonna go straight to SmackDown Hotel. Yeah, I love
Right.
it. I can imagine
Because
the date of it.
Putin, you're gonna go 1-on-1 with the great one. Which, by the way, I think Putin, even with his cancer, will whoop The Rock because he's a black belt in judo.
I don't know.
Putin?
Well, maybe you're probably right about that. So, Doe-Nut, what are you working on, man? I know you were working on a new video. You interviewed an author. Tell us about the book. What are you working on, bro?
Oh yeah, I'm finishing up a interview I'll be posting on Friday with Charles Moskowitz. He wrote a book called The Anti-Semitic Imagination. We go over how a lot of big political powers use Jews as scapegoats throughout history. Very interesting stuff. And I talked to him about other rabbis' works who have covered this topic of Illuminati and whatnot. Very interesting. He also wrote this book called The Satanic Conspiracy about the Illuminati. So it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna definitely ruffle some feathers, I think. But that's, I guess, what it's all about.
Yeah, because apparently your content is dangerous. His content is dangerous, Danny.
Oh, he's dangerous.
Yeah,
I'm
apparently YouTube deems him dangerous.
I'm dangerous. Vimeo removed me off their platform. As a Jewish man, they said I'm anti-Semitic because I said that governments are like are into the occult and witchcraft, and then they kicked me off Vimeo. I've been removed off of. You've never been monetized. I've been on a blacklist, a social credit scoring system since 2019. Since the world was locked down, I was one of the first people to come out and talk about the evils that were coming, and social credit scoring system. It's very hard to just thrive in the dopocalypse right now. But I don't know. What makes me kind of suspicious is that there's so much videos and contents of people saying the craziest stuff. Like I never tell the only call to action I tell people to do is to pray to God. Like that's it. Or give me, $5 for the Patreon. Like there's people out there in their channels spreading nothing but hate, bigotry, telling people to call to action to do stuff. They're fully monetized and supported by the Google algorithms and the AI. I think what's happening is the AI is scientific technocracy is using imprinting to get people to fight each other. And that's what it wants. So if somebody's coming with positivity, love, acceptance, forgiveness, especially God. That's the worst. So you'll see a lot of people who are anti all those things, and they'll say really bad stuff, and it's totally okay because that's the Illuminati goals.
Man, that's insane. That it's like we live definitely in a bizarre world. But when you're riding a dolphin like Alex, you'd be considered dangerous too, because dolphins be crazy, bro. Dolphins are
Right.
wild.
And a lot of people have been, complaining about that because they think that I was abusing that dolphin because they thought I like pierced the dolphin. It's that chain that I'm holding with. He's just clamping on it. He could spit it out anytime. He's holding. That's how I hold on to the dolphin. He's biting down on the chain. It's not like pierced in him. He could spit it out at any time. It's a loving relationship that I have with this particular dolphin.
What's the dolphin's name?
I don't know because I don't speak dolphin.
Man.
Is it 3 clicks, 4 clicks, and a weird sign? I don't know.
But that's definitely my cat, though.
That's definitely your cat.
I had to lift the cat up because he doesn't like the water.
So there's a new movie coming out, and I want to get your thoughts on this, Doe-Nut. I don't know if we've talked to you about this or not. I know we talked to you about a couple different movies on the podcast, but this is one that I find very interesting as predictive programming, and it's the movie Civil War.
Yeah, I just watched it. It's total trash. One of the worst movies probably ever out. The predictive programming and it's absolutely garbage. Terrible film. It was just copying off an actual great film that came out in 2002 called City of God. City of God was a fantastic film.
City of God is a fantastic film. The one in Portuguese, right?
Yeah. So that movie, the guy was trying to copy off that film. This movie sucked. I give it a 0-star rating.
What about it? Was it the filming, the editing, the story?
It was absolutely just charged with political division, man versus woman, and all that garbage. It just wasn't exciting. It wasn't cathartic like his other films I thought were very, very well done. 28 Days Later. It just was a trash film.
So here's the thing, and I haven't seen the movie. I haven't seen the movie yet, but the whole thing when watching the previews was when they said the California and Texas alliance. That's when I should have known that this movie was going to be trash, because I don't know any Texan that will align themselves with California.
Or I don't know any Californians that'll align themselves with a Texan.
Thank you. If anything,
I mean, I'm from Florida, and I don't. Listen, I love you because you're my family, but I wouldn't unite with Texas or California either.
They throw in all these little like garbage. It's absolutely terrible. They were like, oh, they say one line where they're like, it's the Antifa massacre, like it was like a terrible thing. I mean, it's so bad. But not just the political. Movie. Yeah, the political messaging was trash, but the film itself was garbage.
Wow. Now, were there any instances in that movie that you thought that there may be a little bit of predictive programming or anything? That
absolutely. Yeah, you both are absolutely right. It is predictive programming, but as a cinematographer, video editor, lover of film, this one was not great.
That's interesting because A24, which is the studio that made this movie, has been putting out some pretty good movies, some pretty good bangers. And interestingly enough, I know Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson has a contract now with A24. He has like 2 or 3 movies that he has a deal with. So I wonder if any movies that he's going to be making is going to have some predictive programming in it, because we saw what Leave the World Behind did. I saw Midsummer, which was like this big pagan ritual, crazy stuff on there. But most of their movies have some type of occultic stuff in there, right, Doe-Nut?
Yeah, and there's this film with The Rock that's really good by the guy who made Donnie Darko. where he becomes the president. So there is the predictive programming already with him in Southland Tales, which is a fantastic film as well. But A24, their movies are all great. But what happens with cinema and when you become great for so long, you get lazy. So when you have all the money in the world and all the hype and all that, your creativity will drop. So when you're a independent filmmaker, you have to rely on your creativity to make something excellent. And when you're just funded with infinity funds by political regimes, like you lose creativity. That's why in like guerrilla warfare, they win a lot of the battles. And I look at it as a guerrilla independent filmmaker, that these independent films like Napoleon Dynamite, for example, that could be a great one to point out. They use the creativity on such a high level because you're forced to. If you don't use your creative facilities, you're not going to make a good film, and then you'll be in debt. They're not going to be in debt because they got all the money in the world to push it on all the streaming platforms. But it coming out probably on Netflix, which is a propaganda arm of the left, that they're releasing it April 12th. That is the day the Civil War actually kicked off. So things are strategically released on certain days, just like this 3-body problem was just released a couple weeks ago, and it's about CERN. And then this whole CERN thing happened a week later.
That's crazy. Because in my mind, the people who are putting the scripts together, putting the set together, costume designers, director of photography, who I have a feeling in my gut, and I don't know if it's 100% true, but whenever we see these occult themes in a movie, right, or these little Easter eggs that we catch, like in Leave the World Behind, the opening scene with the blue wall, the blue car, the blue house, the 666, right in the first scene, it's there. Do you think that these people that are the producers, the writers, whoever's in charge of putting the movie together, not the actors, although I think that the actors partake in a little bit of it, but do you think that those are the people that are putting the messages in the movies, or it's just coincidental?
Every single frame of a film is well thought out, every little piece. It would get taken out in the editing room if it wasn't supposed to be there. You're spending millions and millions of dollars a day, hourly. That's why a film is usually filmed in just less than 2 weeks, because it's so expensive to film a film. Every single thing in the shot is on purpose, especially when we're talking millions of dollars connected to propaganda. So it's definitely involved for a reason, for sure.
What do you think, Danny?
I don't disagree. I mean, let's look at some of the big movies in the last 10 years, right? Yes, there's a lot of reboots, but some of these reboots are just trash. And they're adding themes and little undertones to the reboots that weren't there in the beginning. And I just saw probably the worst movie I've ever seen. It was very entertaining, but it was the worst movie I've ever seen. And it's the remake of Roadhouse, right?
I was about to catch that this weekend, so should I spend my time watching it?
I will say this. It's fun, but it's not good.
All right.
It's fun, but it's not good. But like the whole thing is, it's the guy with money trying to take over the small business. And it's very what's happening now in the housing market. What's happening with BlackRock, what's happening with Vanguard. And it's kind of the thing. Yeah, they put a white face to the black guy, to the bad guy. And the hero is some bum that, did something horrible. It's weird. And like the fight scenes, I can sit down and break down the fight scenes and say they're legit or not legit. It's a fun movie, but it's a bad movie. It's a fun movie. It's not a good movie. It's one of those that you watch once, you're like, that was cool. But it's not like the original Roadhouse where you're going to be like, Patrick Swayze took somebody's throat out. No, it's not like that.
Interesting.
It ain't no Barbie.
It ain't no Barbie.
Barbie was good, yo. Barbie was good.
Barbie went hard. That was like a real film.
Yeah, that was good.
I
and it was
refuse to watch that movie.
What's up?
I refuse to watch Barbie.
Dude, it is really good.
Yeah, it's a good film. I liked it.
It's really good. Not being biased at all.
Just pushing the transgendered agenda. It's fine, guys. You're all for it.
Dude, it's not even like about that, bro. It's just a good movie. I mean, sure, there's a lot of undertones in there, and a lot of messaging, but it's just an overall good film. I thought it was really good.
Yeah, when it comes to cinematography, editing, acting, actors, writers, I thought it was great. There was a lot of political messages throughout it. I thought it was pretty fair on the man versus woman. I mean, I think it leaned more towards the women, although women would probably say it led more towards the men. But, I thought it was great, especially growing up with Barbies all around my house with having a sister, it was definitely funny how just the acting, how she when she was sad and she fell over like the Barbie doll. It was just
I thought Kayla McKenna did amazing as the weird Barbie. She was awesome. I thought she did amazing. But I want to switch things a little bit because Doe-Nut, you're officially have been on the show 3 times now, bro. So you are officially you are the most returning guest on our show. But we've never had the opportunity to really talk about you, bro. We want to talk about you. Want to know a little bit more about you. You cover Illuminati news. You cover symbolism. You break a lot of stuff down on the internet. And if you guys haven't had the chance, go make sure you follow Doe-Nut at the Doe-Nut Factory on YouTube and on Rumble. I'll have the links in the description. But Doe-Nut, tell her how it all started, bro. Tell me how this journey into exposing the truth and telling the people about the Illuminati and the Illuminati dolphins and the Illuminati worms. How did this whole journey start for you? And yeah, man, just kind of start with that.
Yeah, I grew up in Las Vegas. Always wanted to be a comedian. Too scared to go on stage. Found a video camera. I was filming videos. I was like, man, this is cool. I'd be a filmmaker, make funny videos. And then as I grew up and kept filming stuff, I was really good at it. I was uploading videos way before YouTube existed to video platforms before YouTube. And I had my own website as a kid. It was a little controversial because it was around Jackass time when that was popular, CKY. I was arrested at 12 years old. Police told me I had to shut down my website. Legally, they couldn't do that, but I did it anyway because I was a little kid. I didn't know the laws. And then I just grew up, and then I got into smoking pot, and I got a license and a girlfriend. And then I kind of put filmmaking and editing on the back burner, right? And just lived life and got in a lot of trouble. I just had a really trouble past of being very angry, but that anger was nothing but fear. So I was really scared in the environment I lived in Vegas, with just growing up in the 90s and 2000s. And then I moved to Arizona, and my life, it was getting just the same, and everyone's life got better and mine didn't. Facebook was out. And so I did something called a geographic, and I moved to California thinking that my life would be better. But me
and Jose did the same thing. Don't worry about it.
Mm-hmm. So I kept going everywhere thinking that it was me, like my environment. It wasn't me. I was the culprit. That's why I always tell people it's like going back to yourself and God. Everyone wants to blame people, but you got to just look at yourself. And I was doing music videos, doing videography for people. And while I was video editing, my biggest passion was looking into like the conspiracies and podcasts and whatnot, like listening to all the different podcasts. That's what I did. So I'd edit videos for 10 years for a big YouTube channel. But while I was editing, I was listening to all the conspiracy stuff. So I was a fan of all the big conspiracy podcasts. And then everyone got sent to their rooms in 2019. And then I started putting out video, and then it just took off. And that's where you catch me on the Dolphin now. And I'm sober now. I'm sober now too.
So who was the original conspiracy guy you looked up to?
Jordan Maxwell. For sure. He talked about the symbols, and then I saw him everywhere. It was Jordan.
That's cool. I think at least for me, it was old Art Bell stuff. And I remember working nights with my dad back in the day, listening to Coast to Coast AM and the call-ins and stuff like that. And every time I think conspiracy theory, like, I think you have to give it up to the OG and Art Bell, God rest his soul, you know. And I don't think there would be the conspiracy theory podcast or radio show without him, honestly. And I think you're one of the guys that is kind of carrying the torch for the modern guys, you know, along with Sam Tripoli and a handful of other people. But I think without him, we wouldn't have this space, because he was talking about things that came true years after he talked about it, which was insane, right? He was talking about CERN, and when they were building CERN, he was talking about astral projections and the truth behind 9/11 and all this, you know, decades before it became a movement on the internet.
Yeah, my close family friends worked for Art Bell back when I lived in Vegas. Yeah. So, I mean, I was very young, so I wasn't listening to radio at the age of like 8 or 9, but my friends who worked for him, I would have been like maybe 3 or 2 years old. But they would tell me stories of Area 51 and growing up. So I know that had a huge influence for sure.
So living in Vegas, you ever see anything up in the sky?
I just saw a lot of fights and like
that was the people on the strip handing out those the hooker cards, you know, the prostitute.
Oh yeah, I collected those.
Oh my god,
that was the most wildest thing, bro. Like when I went to Vegas for the first time, this was in January 1st, 2007. That's how I remember, because it was like 15 degrees and it was like 30-mile wind gust, dude. It was crazy. But I remember, dude, I'm like walking on the strip, and this guy like, hey, Baba, and he just starts flicking these cards. He's like, here, and another guy here, and I'm like looking at these cards, and they're like, oh, these are hookers, bro. Like these are escorts, and apparently escorts pay taxes in Vegas. Is that true, Doe-Nut?
I don't know. I was a little kid when I lived there, you know. So all I did was just like look at all the imagery all over the place. It definitely warped my mind.
I can imagine. I mean, it's interesting because I know a couple of people that live in Vegas, a couple of comics, and you know, they talk about the nightlife in Vegas and all that. And my whole thing is like, I don't care about the nightlife. Tell me what happens in the night sky. Like, do you go out in the desert? Do you see lights? Do you go to the edge of Area 51? Do you see things? Like, I always ask those questions. Then they look at me like, what the fuck is wrong with you, Danny? Like, why are you asking these dumb questions?
But what I find interesting about this whole thing is that, you know, that whole area, you know, we've talked about it before. There's a lot of paranormal activity because of where the ley line is, you know, that Vegas has a 33 and 36 parallel.
Right.
There's a lot of activity that happens around there. But when you're doing like your breakdowns, dude, and what I love about your videos is that you point out the symbolism, right? And that and I don't know if I'm going to call you an expert. I'm going to call you the resident symbologist, because that's what you are, in my opinion. You break down all sorts of symbols that are on movies, on videos, on music videos and music covers, right? So how did that all came about? Did you learn that from Jordan, or is that something that you started to decipher yourself?
Oh man, that is such a nice compliment. That's probably the best compliment I've ever gotten. Speaking straight to my heart right there. Well, you know, Jordan, he talked about Saturn symbolism a lot. And then I'd go out and about and watch, you know, just living life in 2012, 2013, and you just see it everywhere. You're like, wow, that commercial is full of symbols. So I didn't know too many symbols, but then you start diving down the rabbit hole of learning about symbolism. There's so much like Freemasonic symbols you look at and you're like, oh, wow. But then you look deeper and you're like, oh, wow, these are even more ancient. And just symbols are just, it's a language. It's a language. And I'll just keep learning more. Like, I think what it is I'll find something trending, like Cardi B's hit song, Arouse Genitalia. That song, that was promoted by Biden. I would look at that music video and be like, oh, there's checkerboards. Let me learn about the checkerboards. And then I would just dive deep into pulling out books like Manly P. Hall books and all the books that I got and look into that symbol. And then just, so I'm always learning something new. Every time I put a video out, I try to learn something new and give some new information every single time. So
with all the research you've done, what is the most mind-boggling thing you've ever learned?
That's a great question. I think the most mind-boggling thing was when I prayed to remove a problem and it was removed. And that blew my mind because I was like, wow, we really do live on a spiritual plane. So it was more of not researching. It was more of an action. So I don't know if that answers the question, but that's just what popped up in my head.
So, and if I'm going too personal, please tell me. I know you went through a journey of sobriety and found yourself on the spiritual side of things a little more. What did you learn from the spiritual side of sobriety that you use in your research to discern what's going on? Because Jose and I, we have this conversation all the time that what we see, and then I'm a big Bible guy. I'll put it up, and like we did it last week, I'm like, hey, all these prophetic guys are saying this, and I'm like, hold on, but this is what Jesus said, right? So I don't know if you do anything like that, and it'll be interesting to know because you do way more research than I do. So
yeah, no, absolutely. I love the way Jesus lived his life, and I will try to implement that as a human, not a saint, as much as possible daily. That if you just live honestly, you don't wrong people, you just do those things, you'll be good and have serenity and have acceptance, be very stoic in that department, be a service, just all that stuff. I learned all the stuff I learned about, I apply for sure. Because when you bring God into your work, then it's like even better for sure. Like God's in control of everything. So sometimes I'll get scared once in a while, like, oh, like they're gonna do some food shortage thing, because I'm a human, and sometimes I look too deep into stuff. But then I gotta know, like, I'm not in control. And once I know I'm not in control of what happens, all I'm in control of is my attitudes and my actions, then I can show up positively or gratefully and take the right actions. And I just apply that daily. And every day gets reset.
That's absolutely beautiful, Doe-Nut. I have a saying very similar to what you said right now. And the saying is that life all right, every circumstance that's around you is neutral. Your emotions are not. Okay.
Right.
Think about that, right? Every circumstance around you is neutral, but your emotions are not. So with that being said, two people can experience seeing a horrible car crash. One person can dwell on the fact that, oh my God, I'm never going to drive again because of this terrible car crash. I'm fearful for my life every single day. The other person that saw that same exact car crash would be like, I am so thankful for my family. I'm so thankful that I'm safe, that I am alive. Same situation, neutral circumstance, two different emotions. So just like what you said, you could only control your actions, you could only control your emotions. And I think that was a very powerful thing, Doe-Nut.
Yeah, it's two different perspectives too. So like having the perspective of I'm in control is totally different than a perspective of God's in control.
Man, that's beautiful.
So
I didn't come up with that. That's not me. That's like, that's like
no, it's
I was going to
funny.
use that quote and put Doe-Nut,
It's funny because like I said earlier in the podcast that we, with all the the doom and gloom prophecies of the eclipse, we pulled out God's word last week on the podcast, we read all of chapter 20, Matthew 24, and the last lines were like, neither I nor know the day or the hour of my return, only the Father. So do the most to the least and live the way I've told you, and don't worry about nothing. I'm paraphrasing because I suck at straight quoting, but basically that's what he said. He was like, hey man, don't worry about all the stuff that's happening in the macro. Worry about your micro.
Bro, you'd be a great Gen Z pastor, bro.
Why
Why
does everybody say that? Can I say this like publicly? I run away from that so much, not because I really do not want that responsibility. I don't want to be a spiritual leader to anybody, but I do believe that you have to be a steward of the things that are given to you. But it's one of those things where I say, I point back to the person that it's already there. Like I'm not teaching you anything. I'm just pointing to the person who did it already. That's all I'm doing. And it's like, we got to do for other people, right, the best that we can for our brothers and our sisters in the body of Christ, or the world, or humanity in general, whatever you want to call it, right? And it doesn't matter what you call it at the end of the day, right? Like I choose to call it the body of Christ, the church, right? That's me and you and Doe-Nut and Juan and Paranoid and Sam Tripoli and all these people and all these individuals, right? But it's like, it's the little things. It's like, it's hard to live your life right, but it's easy to do the right thing. It's so much harder to do the wrong thing and then have to build a lie and keep up with the next lie and then do the wrong thing. When off rip, if you would have just done the right thing in the beginning, man, you could just move on and walk away and be good. So I tell this to everybody. So just do the right thing in the beginning, and your life goes way easier. And I'm not saying I'm perfect, man. I've done enough in my own day. I've seen this guy online. He's
so Don. I don't know if you catch this one, but this is a pastor doing a translation of the Bible, but with Gen Z lingo. So I don't know if you heard it yet, but I wanted you to check it out, and I want to get your reaction.
Translation out called the Gen Z Bible, where someone had taken the scriptures and translated it into Gen Z language. Now I'm going to read part of this. I do want to let you know I would never dishonor God's word. I have triple checked this to make sure this is exactly what Luke 1 communicates when the angel talks to Mary. Check this out. Mary was a pick-me girl for God and was simping for him in prayer when the angel Gabriel appeared to her and said, "Ayo, you're a real one, and the top G is feeling you."
Top G.
But she thought his compliment was sus and gave him the side eye. So he said, "Baby girl, chill. God sent me to tell you you've passed his vibe check. And low-key, he wants you to have the main character. You name him Jesus, and they will all say, he's him."
He's him.
She said, "How can this be, since I promised him my body count will always be 0? Respectfully. He said, "This ain't about cuffing season, for the Holy Spirit will live rent-free in you, and your boy Jesus will be a divine bro. Besides, your cousin Elizabeth is with child, she who is already older than a boomer and whose husband is way past beekeeping age." So Mary said, "Bet." Gabriel left her on red, and she let the Holy Spirit cook.
That's hilarious. It makes more sense, though. I could understand that probably by reading that.
So how are you letting the Holy Spirit cook in your life today, Doe-Nut?
Bet. Oh, I don't know. I wake up and I pray automatically and just ask God, what do you want me to do? I don't know.
I think you have a spiritual gift that is amazing to see in action, and it's of discernment, right? Like you take these symbols of what's happening in pop culture, what's happening in the news, what's happening on the internet, and you filter them and you're like, okay, guys, this is what's happening on the other side. And that's a gift.
Oh, thank you.
That's a gift. And I believe you are, I don't know what the future holds, but you have this thing where they're going to try to shut you down, and they already have, and you're still going to grow. And I believe in my heart that the more we have you on, the more people are going to be exposed to what you're telling and what you're telling the story, your discernment of what's happening in the world. And I'm not saying you're going to be 100% right, because I don't think anybody is.
Right.
But it's that spirit of discernment lives in you, my friend. And it's so awesome to see kind of live at work, because it's one of those things where you're just, you stand back and you're just like, let him cook. He's dropping bombs.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I don't know. An alchemist in his own way.
I didn't always have good discernment, and I'm still working on it. But thank you. I'm nice.
He doesn't take compliments well, everybody. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to get to know Doe-Nut, just compliment him well and watch him squirm.
I like it was nice. It was good. I like compliments. I do like compliments. It's my love language.
Man. All right, guys. Well, we have reached to the end of the show. We really appreciate you guys hanging out with us, listening to me and Danny yap our gums, and listening to Doe-Nut. It's amazing to have you back on the show, Doe-Nut. Thank you so much for coming back on, bro.
Whoop, whoop.
Whoop, whoop. As always, guys, make sure you follow us on YouTube, Rumble at Cultura Truth Project. Follow Gonzalez Media TV on Facebook, on Instagram, Gonzalez Media TV. Subscribe to the podcast on all major platforms, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, and leave us a 5-star review. And support the show by joining the Supporters Club on Spreaker, $3 a month, link in the description. And with that being said, we're going to head out of here, bro. Love you guys.
Good night.
Big hug. Love you. We'll see you guys next week.
See you next week.
Yeah.